changed too much.
Mais je pense qu'ici, il faut être...
Nouvelle says, I think here we have to be more Gothic than ever. Ultimately, the government will make the final decision following extensive studies and discussions with specialists, historians, and architects. But before reconstruction can begin, debris still has to be removed from inside the cathedral and the ceiling vaults stabilized. Thierry Zimmer is the deputy director of a research lab analyzing the rubble, and his team will advise architects on what materials to use. Zimmer says restoring Notre Dame exactly as it was before might not even be possible. The original stones came from quarries that were, at the time, outside Paris. Now, parts of the city sit on top of those pits.
You say that all Paris, it's something like Gruyere. Like a cheese with a lot of holes, yes.
Which makes it dangerous to excavate from those same spots.
We have great difficulties if, for example, we know exactly what we want, but we have no stones to do it.
If crowning Notre Dame today with a reimagined modern steeple is controversial, Viollet-le-Duc spire also caused an uproar in 1859. And even before that, French writer Victor Hugo lamented any changes to the medieval cathedral. In his famous 1831 novel, Notre Dame de Paris, he wrote, "If we had the leisure to examine the various traces of destruction imprinted upon the old church, the part of time would be the least. The worst would be men, especially men of art, since some have assumed the title of architect in the last 2 centuries." For NPR News, I'm Jake Faganero in Paris.
Nearly 60,000 people are homeless in Los Angeles County. Now, a new audit finds that the main agency that's in charge of dealing with the crisis is falling far short of its own goals for getting people off the street. Anna Scott from member station KCRW has more. Homelessness is the #1 municipal issue for many people in LA. In charge of fighting the crisis is the Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority, or LAHSA, which gets funding from the city and county to run their homelessness programs. But when it comes to one of its basic jobs, connecting with people on the streets and linking them to things like shelters, mental health treatment, and long-term housing, the authority isn't doing a good enough job, according to a new report by LA City Controller Ron Galperin.
We found that the outreach efforts in the city of Los Angeles are not where they should be. In most areas, LAHSA failed to even come close to achieving the goals that were set out.
For example, of all the people that outreach workers tried to help within city limits in the past fiscal year, they aimed to place 10% in permanent housing, but only ended up housing 4%. The authority aimed to connect 25% of people who reported having mental health needs to treatment, but only connected 4% to help. Officials with the Homeless Services Authority dispute the findings and say the report looks at one small slice of what they do. They also say that identifying people on the streets who need help is important, but to really solve LA's homelessness crisis, elected officials need to create more affordable housing. Heidi Marston is LAHSA's Chief Program Officer.
We can't lose sight of the permanent housing at the end that really is going to be the true way that we resolve homelessness in LA.
To combat homelessness and housing instability, one report found that LA needs more than 500,000 affordable apartments to meet existing demand from low-income renters. For NPR News, I'm Anna Scott in Los Angeles. And later this afternoon on All Things Considered, in 2017, a gunman opened fire on a country music festival in Las Vegas. People who were living in the U.S. without legal status were among those in the crowd. Now, some of them are pursuing a special visa created to help crime victims feel safe, coming forward to assist law enforcement. Listen to that story by asking your smart speaker to play NPR or your local member station by name. It's NPR News.
Stay with us for more on Morning Edition on WHYY in Philadelphia. 8:19, I'm Jennifer Lynn. We've got this story for you. In about 2.5 minutes or so, some Jewish progressives say President Trump's vocal support for Israel is not aimed at a Jewish audience.
that is much more a communication to evangelicals than it is to Jews.
More on this and on Trump's attempts to paint Democrats as anti-Semites. That's coming up at 8:22.
WHYY hosts more than 60 events each year. See your favorite radio hosts in person. Catch preview screenings of exciting new shows or enjoy one of our free family-friendly events. Find out what's coming up at whyy.org/events.
I am going to do something that's kind of risky for live radio. Drink beer. Don't worry, I'll only take a few sips to check out one of Minnesota's growing industries, craft brewing. It's boosted some states' economies in the last decade, and it's unleashed some major creativity. Ever heard of Cotton Candy IPA? We raise the glass at the Minnesota State Fair. Next time on 1A. This morning from 11 to noon on 90.9 WHYY.
Good morning. It is Morning Edition 8:20, and we're moving along toward the forecast. First, I do want to remind you what's on the Y today. Pennsylvanians will soon be able to get an X-gender marker on their driver's licenses, but an unofficial loophole has already allowed that for years. We get the story tonight on the Y at 5:45 on WHYY FM. Fair skies for us today. A little breezy, a touch of a breeze, 83 for our high. It's WHYY.
Support for NPR comes from this station and from the Maine Office of Tourism. With wild landscapes and rugged coasts to inspire original lifestyles and authentic adventures, Maine offers travelers an opportunity to discover their very own Maine thing at visitmaine.com. From the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation, supporting creative people and effective institutions committed to building a more just, verdant, and peaceful world. More information is at macfound.org. And from Campaign Monitor, an email marketing platform with a drag-and-drop email builder and mobile-ready templates, used by more than 250,000 customers at campaignmonitor.com. Campaign Monitor. Make your emails unforgettable.
This is Morning Edition from NPR News. I'm Rachel Martin.
And I'm David Green. We have heard a lot at the White House recently about who is and who isn't anti-Semitic. President Trump has called Democrats anti-Semites. He also referred to American Jews, the majority of whom vote for Democrats, as disloyal last week.
In my opinion, if you're a Democrat, you're being very disloyal to Jewish people, and you're being very disloyal to Israel.
Now, scholars of Jewish history say that term, disloyal, is linked to the persecution of Jews. I spoke to Dove Kent about this. She has written a lot about anti-Semitism. Rabbis and leaders of National Progressive Jewish Organization. I asked her why she thought President Trump was using an anti-Semitic troll to talk about his own administration's proliferation.
So, for many evangelicals, Jewish people are important because they play a particular role in their theology. And Israel is important because it can. And some people ground for anti-Semitism on a weekly basis, capitalizing on the American Jews, setting the Congresswomen and the Democratic Party as the target of people's terror and anger.
We should remember that Ilhan Omar, for her part, apologized and acknowledged that some of the things she wrote were anti-Semitic. There are some, and I include some voters who have spoken to her today, that they like the fact that this president has forced us to confront racism and difficult emotions in ways that we never have before as a country. Could this be an example of that?
With all due respect, I would imagine that anyone who is saying that President Trump has served us by bringing anti-Semitism and racism and xenophobia to the fore is not someone who is endangered by those oppressions.
I know you've spoken to rabbis, to other Jewish leaders about how to deal with this moment and how to talk about all of this with their communities. What do you tell them?
For so many American Jews and rabbis and Jewish leaders, this is a moment where people are hearkening back to other periods in Jewish history and saying, we were not served by being silent. We were not served by our neighbors being silent. So a lot of the conversations that I'm having with rabbis and other Jewish leaders is less about the fear and more about what can we do to take action. There is real terror happening in the Jewish community. And when rabbis are wondering how to talk to their community, we're really talking about how to have a place to hold the terror, to recognize and give space to that terror, but then to give people an opportunity to feel empowered.
I just want to make sure, terror is such a strong word. Why do you feel like so many people in the Jewish community are experiencing what you would call terror right now?
I'm thinking about a low and constant rumbling. And that terror or that fear comes from a long history of anti-Semitism, where a lot of Jews, somewhere in their psyche, carry around the feeling of, when is the other shoe going to drop? We're safe now, but tomorrow everything could change. Because anti-Semitism doesn't function as a constant violent oppression, it ebbs and flows based on political conditions, economic conditions, and frankly, when politicians are or are not going to use the Jewish community for their political gains. And so then when these episodes happen, like the anti-Semitism that's coming from politicians, like the shooting at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh that was stemmed from this anti-Semitic idea about Jews undermining the well-being of the country, that terror starts to build and build and build. That rumbling gets louder and louder because it's tapping in to something deep and old.